gets caught by the demons and they're sort of flaying him with hooks, and he tricks them into letting him go because he tells them he'll convince his friends to come to the surface if they just stop, stabbing him for a minute. And the minute they let him go, he dives back under, and the demons are left fruitlessly, wailing above the surface, you
awesome.
jerk! And also they fart as trumpets. It's very weird.
The demons fart as trumpets, or
the demons. They made a trumpet up their ass, I believe is the literal Italian. They're very gross demons.
They also have really awesome names.
Yes, they do.
I mean, basically, if Blake was, interpreting the Inferno, he might decide that the demons were the heroes rather than, Satan.
Blake has good taste,
Blake says that
Okay,
back
to
But, then you come to the hypocrites. They're wearing leaden cloaks, sort of the weight of their, lies and their, double acceptance of things. And they kind of walk around being unhappy. And there's a guy named Caiaphas, who is apparently the priest responsible for ordering Jesus' crucifixion, who is crucified to the ground and they walk over him. And considering they're wearing lead, this hurts. Then you move on to the thieves. The thieves are interesting. They are constantly being bitten or chewed at by various snakes, lizards, other creepy reptiles. However, through the process of biting, they are turned into the various snakes and reptiles. The reptiles sort of swallow up the human bodies of the other thieves, and then they are human again, and the other thieves turn into a lizard. So thieves are always stealing from each other their bodies and being turned into repugnant things that chew at each other. Just then below that, are the false counselors. And they are each encased in individual flames, And a bunch of the awesome Greeks are down here. Odysseus is down there, Sinon is down there, I think Diomedes is too. He has an alternate version of what happens to Odysseus' death, actually. He says Odysseus and his friends eventually grew tired of sitting around and not doing anything and having a peaceful life, and they decide to sail for the edge of the world and find the divine lands, and they think when he gets close, he gets there, and it's a disaster.
I thought he whirlpooled down.
Yeah, because he got there, they were like, whirlpool. So basically, Odysseus always awesome.
Is this the only reference to that story of Odysseus?
Yeah, we're fairly sure either he made it up or he took it from a different apocryphal text that's been lost, but it's a pretty good death story anyway. Beneath that are the schismatics. They're hacked apart by demons with swords. They heal only to be hacked apart again.
What's a schismatic?
People who schism the church. He actually counts Muhammad as a schismatic. Muhammad is a Christian schismatic, which is a little weird. So Muhammad is down there, I think, having his head hacked in half and being healed back again.
I think it's his
Because really, Muhammad is just
bowels. Yeah, it was just bowels.
No. He's being
No, it's split in half.
Head to
and then
bowels.
it's
There you
Ali
go.
who's being cut.
Okay, he's the head guy. Okay.
Who's the lead again?
His
His
nephew person.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
he was one of
Who
the
then
successors.
they said it also kind of then schismatic the Muslims.
Exactly.
So,
Endless disaster. Then you have the falsifiers. They wander around having diseases. They're not very interesting. Then you get to the sins of betrayal, which are the lowest sort of section of hell, like the absolute worst things you can do. The least bad of the worst are the betrayers of kin. They call this section of hell Cain after Cain, first fratricide. And these guys are encased in ice about up to here. And the ice, by the way, comes from the flapping of Satan's wings, cooling everything and freezing it. Then come the betrayers of their country and their party. This is called Antenora after Antenor of Troy. And they are also encased in ice, the same as those in Cain. However, they're buried slightly deeper, and they can't really bend their necks. And here you run into a particularly horrifying story where we find one man's head gnawing at another man's head. And the story here was apparently, there was a guy, and I forget the politics that led up to all of this, but basically the guy was being gnawed on, imprisoned the gnawer with his two sons in a tower to starve to death, and it was very awful. The sons sort of started to die first, and they told their father to eat them for sustenance, and he tried to refuse, but eventually he went insane with hunger and ate his own children. So he's now gnawing forever on the guy responsible for this. It's a very...
Kind of sucks for him.
Well, it's kind of like a dual punishment.
I feel as though that's a bit of a trigger.
I mean, he kind of deserved it. It's, again, contrapasso. He's being gnawed on forever by the guy he turned into a psycho-cannibal. It's very
Why is
disturbing.
the guy who's a psycho-cannibal down there?
Because he also did some very bad things. It's his sons who were the innocents who were punished. But,
Do you meet the sons in Paradiso?
Sorry?
I can't remember. Do you meet the sons in Paradiso?
You know, I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think you run into his sons, but I'll get back to you on that. Then you run into the traders to guests. They're the Ptolemea, and they're, again, still frozen. But they're frozen with sort of half their faces covered in the ice, and when they cry, their eyes are frozen shut, so they can't even see anymore. And sometimes people are taken to this level of hell early, like they're taken from their living bodies and a demon possesses their body, apparently. You run into a guy who's apparently still alive up on Earth down there, and he's like, yeah, there's a demon in my body upstairs. It's a little awkward. And then you come to Satan. And Satan is obviously at the very middle in the bottom of hell, and he is a hideous three-headed thing eternally flapping his wings and frozen in ice, because he's a traitor to God, the worst of all, and constantly weeping from his three faces. And in his three mouths, he has the greatest sinners. There's Judas in the middle, he's chomping on, of course, and he's also flaying his back with his claws. And then on left and right, you have Brutus and Cassius of the murder of Julius Caesar. Now, that might seem hella random, right? Worst thing ever, killing Julius Caesar. But, but it's actually sort of meant to be a political commentary on dividing up Italy and leaving it ununited, and on murdering someone who was ordained by God to rule. Because one of the big themes of Italian history for quite a while to come is Italy's attempts to unify, because the greater powers of France and Spain are constantly interfering and weakening Italy. And it was one of Machiavelli's big, sore points, that he really wanted Italy to unite and be strong enough to stand up to the other powers. So it's a common political theme, and it didn't work out, and it didn't go well, and Italy was never a power.
Now it's united and.
Well, no, it's united, but it never became a power the way the other old European countries were a power. They never sort of achieved the nationalistic dream there. But yes. So basically, Dante gets out of hell with Virgil by climbing Satan, but in the opposite way. They don't climb up towards his mouth. They climb. You've been walking down towards Satan all this time, and gravity reverses somehow, and you're climbing, up his torso. It's very strange. And so they climb out, they get out into the free air, they see the stars, Inferno over. Now, we're going to do Purgatory and Paradise in 10 seconds, because I don't care about them. Basically, in Purgatory, people are still suffering, it still sucks, but you serve out your term and you get to heaven. It's great. Virgil takes him up through there. Virgil gets to heaven, the gate towards heaven, but Virgil can't go there because Virgil is one of the unbaptized, so it's very sad. He has to part with Virgil. Virgil goes back to hell. Tear. Beatrice.
He doesn't say goodbye.
Oh, I know, because he's a jerk. But Dante drinks from Lethe, wipes away his memories of sin so that he can go into heaven, because otherwise it's super blasphemous. Beatrice, if you remember her, who is now sitting at the right hand of God, because apparently she was just that awesome, comes down to take him up through heaven. Everyone's happier and happier and happier as he goes up through heaven. He gets to God. Woot. Over.
No, but Beatrice is also you bastard, you're
Well,
horrible.
Beatrice is also horrifying.
Yeah, Can we just dwell on how
awful.
Beatrice is a bitch for
Feel free. She's, unfortunate.
She's also just like the Virgin Mary. What does this tell us about the Virgin Mary?
I don't know, there's this moment where he drank the waters of Lethe, right? And then afterwards she's like, remember how horrible you were to me? And he was like, no. And she's like, well, the fact that you can't remember proves that you were something horrible.
I just drank it!
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
But, yeah. So, basically, I thought I might go over just, the first short part of the Inferno in the Italian, just to give people some idea of what it was like. And, the sort of more intricate textual stuff going on, because Dante, sort of like Virgil, puts a lot of care into, the very small things that you really only can get in the original language. That there's sort of a lot of the Latin influences still there. So I figured I would kind of try to write up the part of the first couple cantos on the board and just go through some of the Italian so you'd see why it was awesome. But yeah, you can feel free to dwell on the horrors of Beatrice if you want to.
Yeah, if only I had saved my comment for now.
But then he gets the memories back, because doesn't he drink from the water with semi-remembers or something?
Not before she yells at him.
Well, yes, but...
But I guess she's yelling at him constantly, so it's difficult.
Wait, who
No,
was the
no.
Beatrice
Okay,
then?
there are two different waters he drinks from.
She became
One of
a
them,
nun.
one of them takes away his memories of all the bad things he's done, and the other one restores his memory of all the good things he's done. So it won't actually help him
Sorry.
in that case.
Maybe that's